Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Audio Fanfics and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became the emperor of Jing and took revenge on Konoha? Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Cold, it's still cold even with a damn pyre burning. Thought the Uzumaki to himself, his men standing around the area dressed like he was in the ragtag clothes, the various outfits of each before they were captured, worn and torn. Naruto, what's your plan in regards to this? I mean, we weren't supposed to get killed back there. I mean everything with Muku and Mui, and on top of it everything else. I mean he had a clansman of his come in to try and take control and your village has been looking for you. Said Ryazetsu, the girl blushing as the blonde turned to stare at her with the fierce eyes he now bore from his near-death experience, which turned back into the cerulean orbs she was more used to. What we do is we make a way out of this mess. This cave won't be safe for long. After that we need to form the backbone of our efforts into a combined form. In other words, we all need to put aside any differences of our home villages, grudges, and old hatreds and move forward together. Because we're all equally hunted by our villages after that little stunt of Mui's. Said the blonde with many ninja, nodding the blonde side as he flashbacked very briefly before shaking it off to the final battle with had all seemed so fast, but somehow someway he had known Muku would not be happy to have his friend back after being released from the box and made a shadow clone who tried to substitute with Ryazetsu. It had worked well for the blonde as he managed to save his friend's life from her former best friend and crush, albeit she was slashed heavily on her right side from a puncture wound. Needless to say, after he beat Muku, Ryazetsu was grateful and tried to heal the blonde of his seemingly fatal wound at the cost of her life, only to prove that he was fine by the blonde proving to be a shadow clone. Using her skills, Ryazetsu managed to get him out of the area in a body flicker, and the blonde convinced her to help him gather the other prisoners, as many as they could together. Then without warning the blonde paused, then cursed, yelling, "Damn you! Naruto, what's wrong?" asked his friend, and the blonde, realizing his outburst, sighed and said, "I just had a shadow clone disperse. Turns out my old village tried to laugh off me being imprisoned and called it a mission of all things, and on top of that they tried to say that it was training for me to be a better ninja." Hearing this, the other prisoners were shocked, and one of them, a man Naruto knew was Kento Numashiro, said, adjusting his former missed armband. "Damn, that is up. So where to now, boss?" Smirking, the young man said to him, "Dagarashi Port, I have an idea. No, not an idea but a plan to ensure our independence. If there are any of you with families who can be trusted and can make it with my shadow clone sealing them and bringing them there within a period of 4 days. We will gather everyone loyal to us and then begin my new plan, a plan to make a place where we can be safe from the predations of the eastern lands." Hearing this, Ryazetsu's eyes widened. "Why, you mean there are lands beyond the elemental lands, those lands not mentioned since the Sage of the Sixth Path forbade us all people of the East to head there?" Nodding, the blonde said to her, "True, ordinarily that's what it is. However," he also said, and I quote from this his own personal journal which I've retrieved from my mother's homeland Whirlpool, "I say to all people of the West, do not head east for any reason other than to escape assured destruction. For the powers of there are formidable and more than the United East can handle with their frail pedants. Should one of my descendants lead you or one of our distant kin, then I say it is viable and I wish you luck on your journey. I'm a descendant of the Senju clan through the Uzumaki clan." Ryazetsu, meaning I am one of the few he recommends to go south in a situation like this. Can you and the other grass ninja prisoners honestly head back to Kusagakur after the mess with the fruit and flower groups in power there? Hearing that made the girl and the other native grass ninja shiver as they thought about just what might happen to them should they do so, with Ryazetsu speaking their thoughts quite well. No, if anything, we may be considered traitors for how things went with the opening of the box, given the intricacy of the opening process of the box, as well as the fact that it's no doubt known I let it happen because you weren't the only one there when I was reunited with my friend, and because I wanted the box to open so I can try to save Muku. Nodding, Naruto said, smiling as he put his hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry I couldn't save him, but for what it's worth, I'd like to offer you a place you can be where all of you can be and not worry about being hunted by your old village. Stepping forward, a man with a hard nose and a very plain face but build of a ninja said with a business tone. We will follow you, Ryazetsu. You're not only one of the most powerful ninja among youths but the most well-versed in all areas, especially diplomacy, said the man, and with her nod she said in a similar tone to her blonde friend, her Anbu mindset kicking in. We will. Your offer is good, but should you form a nation, we also wish for citizenship as well as the benefits any natural citizens will have within said nation or place. Smiling, the blonde extended his hand and said, Deal. I've got my savings. I managed to get another shadow clone to bring them to me. With the savings from my books, we should be able to make our ideals come true. Kento Numashiro sighed in irritation as he turned to the blonde next to him and said, Fine, you were right, happy boss. I've already got to hear about this from my fellow ex-mist associates. Isn't that enough? Smirking as he pocketed the wad of Ryo, Naruto said, Sure, thank you for your contribution to our fleet fund, Numashiro. If anyone else wishes to bet against me, please do so now. Many of the people looked away and Ryazetsu sighed in slight irritation. This is serious, Naruto. Just because you proved him wrong at us making it here in a day doesn't mean you should rub his face in it. As for you, Numashiro, you should know better than to bet against someone who fought against the guardian of the box of pleasure and survived. A sheepish look was the response as he said, What, I thought I could win. Sighing, the blonde shook his head as they entered the main room, just the three of them, where an older man with gray hair awaited with a simple regal robe. The man smiled, his kind face showing slow aging as he spoke with a boisterous tone. Naruto. Good to see you. Look at you, so tall. Smiling, he bowed to the man, his fellow ninja following suit. You honor me with this audience, with you now being in ever greater duty with the dishonoring of the Watarashi clan. I know you are quite busy. Smiling, the man waved off the thanks. True, I am busier, but thanks to Idate who helps to run said duties, I am able to manage in my usual position the port. I see you have brought some friends with you. Grinning, the blonde said, Yes, I have. This is Ryazetsu. She's a very powerful ninja all on her own, and here is my friend Numashiro. He's pretty good as well. Nodding, the man said, letting out a sigh. Good. Now what can I do to repay the favor of preserving and encouraging Idate all those years ago? You know he still talks about you. He wishes to test his natural speed against your ninja speed sometime. Smirking at the guy who could get under his skin like few others, he said, He'll have his race in good time, but I have to ask frankly, Jirochu-sama, would it be possible for you to make us a series of ships, some of which would be like homes and others fortified for transport? Hearing this, the man smiled. Of course, I would be willing to give you 10 ships for free if you'd like, but after that I'm afraid you would need to start paying, as we already have trade orders with several other nations and the loss of our already built ships would be too much. Of course I'm willing to pay. I've got up to 897,000 Ryo for this project, said the blonde, unsealing a sealing scroll land. Much to Jirochu's shock, a massive large block of cash hit the floor of the room. The other ninja were shocked too, however Jirochu clapped his hand together and laughed, saying, You certainly are a young man full of surprises. Very well, this fleet will be one of the finest we've made for you. Are there any specifications? Just some. I wish for this style, the style of some fortifications in a few towns of scene, be a part of your designs. Tanzaku quarters, Takumi village, and the land of waves with Kikyo castle. Interesting, we can do these designs, Naruto-san. However, is there a specific time you would want them done by? Sighing, the blonde only said to the man, As soon as possible. Nodding, he said, It would take at least 3 weeks to get them completed in the initial numbers you've asked for. Nodding, the blonde said. Excellent, we will stay in touch, said the blonde as him and his companions disappeared in 3 puffs of smoke, leading the man to sigh as his guard's tense body language dropped and he got up, went to his table and began to write on a fresh scroll a new list of orders for the port's shipwrights. 2 weeks later, Uzuhyogakure. For once in a very long time, the ruins and skyscrapes of the infamous Whirling Tide village were filled with life. However, to the spy within said ruins, running it was a death trap. I've got to get out of here. Tsuchikage-sama will want to know about this, thought the man before a cry of fire style was all he heard. He tuned out the rest of the jutsu as he dodged several flying fiery heads and gasped as he was hit with a wall of water before turning to mud. Rasengan. Gahk. Instantly the 3 ninja as well as several others in large group watched as the spy fell in front of him, coughing up a storm. A cry of wind style, great downcast, being heard as a wave of wind came from 20 feet in the air and crashed down into the man, hurting him badly as the tornado drill of hardened wind hit him in the already injured chest, making him cough and groan within the earth. Well, isn't this interesting? A stone ninja. Now what is it you have to tell us? Ryazetsu, you know some techniques being an Anbu to get information right. Nodding once, the indigo eyes woman looked at the man who clearly was not a hardened ninja, who winced and said, all right. A spy for stone on a long-term watch for Thetsuchikage. It's graveyard shift, no one's supposed to be here, please don't hurt me. Scoffing, Rushio Numuido said. Humph, so a green spy of no value, forgive us if we want to interrogate you to make sure. Them sitting ninja said, with Naruto glaring at him and directing killing intent at the man who tried to reach for something behind him. Much to the increased tensing of the ninja around him, the frail stone ninja heaved to the side, then passed out. I want him interrogated and the rest of the eastern block of intact buildings sealed, as well as anything found of my clan's culture given to me. We've only got a week left, people, then we head out to the South Seas. Hi Naruto-sama, said the men while Naruto sighed as Ryazetsu patted him on the back, comforting him as she said, it'll get easier when we're away, Naruto. I know, Ryazetsu, but it doesn't make it easy when these ninja, the elementals, seems to be trying to nip at us. Hearing this, she sighed, then smiled and said, true, with Idate saying he's faster than you in his letter, I can imagine why you'd be scared. I am not. Ryazetsu, he's full of hot air, he's fast, I'll give him that, but he's got a long way to go before he can beat me. Smirking, the conversation went on as the 2 friends got to know each other more, Rumio saying as the 2 talked, pocketing some quiet thoughts to himself as he drank some sake with some of the men and began playing some card games. Land of Fire. 1 week later, Konohagakure. Tsunade knew that someone somewhere in heaven had to be hating her, as the vast amount of paperwork and council members in her office asking for a leadership meeting was now the proverbial high point to the day. Fine, main council room, 30 minutes. Nodding, both ninja elder counselors left, leaving the Hokage with a massive headache. Kakashi, you're in here now and tell me you've got something, or I will tell them to come back and say you're finally ready to be Hokage. No need for that, Hokage-sama, said the Cyclops ninja as he quickly came in through the window, laughing up a storm before sighing as Tsunade said to him, have you gotten anything on Naruto? At this, the silver-haired ninja sighed, having to give an answer. No, Hokage-sama, I'm sorry to say we haven't located him or any signs of where he's gone. Pounding her fist once on the table, the desk cracked slightly and the Hokage said, damn it, thank you Kakashi for doing your best. Tell your teammates to get some rest and be on alert for shift rotation of search tomorrow, but for now to get some rest. I know they want to keep looking, but they need to sleep. Chuckling, Kakashi nodded. The Hokage's words were very true. Hi Hokage-sama, they definitely wish to get their friend back. Naruto is quite the ninja, and with Akatsuki out there he will need the village to help him survive. Tsunade sighed hearing this and added. Definitely Jiraiya and I would be hard-pressed to fight off 2 of their members, much less all 9, and the fact that they only send 2 each group for the lesser beasts makes me worried they may send up to 4 after S-ranked ninjas. Not even the previous Hokages have had to face such odds. Said the Senju for a Hokage, frankly making Kakashi wince as he tried to keep such scenarios out of his head. His worry caused him to curse himself for putting off training Naruto seriously in exchange for Sasuke over the blonde. Out of fear he'd end up dead like Obito. Yes, it would be something, but have faith Hokage-sama. Naruto is creative and from his experience with Jiraiya-sama he definitely knows better than to try and take the Akatsuki head-on by himself. Sighing, the Hokage said to her ninja. I hope so. Still, I really wish I had a clue where he was and HWO he was doing. It isn't safe out there. Jiraiya, I really wish you were here. You would definitely be able to cheer me up. The Kage said to herself as she tried to get her mind off of her ex-teammate who and focused on the future of her home village. Time skip 1 week with Naruto. Looking into the cell, Naruto sighed at the figure which lay unmoving in the cell and shook his head at it, then sighed as he sensed Numashiro and said. Numashiro, place several exploding tags in here. I want them to detonate after a minute. Let them know their spy is dead. Nodding, the former mist ninja said. It's done, my lord. I will meet you within the next 20 minutes for the departure. Nodding, the Uzumaki said. Good, use the tags I gave you. I made them especially myself from a formula of my old master's. I modified. They should work very well for us. Nodding, the mist ninja watched as his master left the room and set about dooming the unconscious stone spy of a prisoner within said room. At the shores of Uzuhyogakure's largest city. Sir, I found these scrolls in one of the ruins. I hope they will help. Hearing this, Form 1 of the ninja, he took the scroll and said. Thank you, Jin, it was right. They have a seal on them. If my memory serves, it's a blood seal. Here, let me just, takes out kunai and cuts palm. Alright, now to read the Jin this scroll. Damn, I wish we had a system in place. I'd promote you for this. It's just. Tearing up, the blonde was looked at strangely by the other ninjas. However, Ryazetsu said. It holds significant meaning to you. It must be clan relic or something of equal importance. It's the scroll of seals for Uzuhyogakure, whirling tides, essential. It holds every bit of knowledge for Uzuhyogakure, whirling tides, and it's bound to the one who opens the blood seal, making it indestructible and impossible to steal from the one who holds it, as it is linked to me through a seal now on my body. Damn, no wonder the third Mizukage obsessed over getting your clan with something like that, as well as their skills in sealing jutsu. They would have greatly strengthened the village. Oh well, at least you're our leader, so where to, Admiral? Asked the man, and the blonde raised an eyebrow, making Ryazetsu sigh as the blonde grinned and said. To the unknown. Where few ships have ever gone. We're heading on the Jodan Sea and making our way through Kizan Pass. Hearing this, all the older ninja stiffened, with the young seeming confused. Numashiro went a bit pale and Ryazetsu said. Naruto. Are you feeling alright? Because I don't think going to a place where chakra goes haywire and jutsu doesn't work does not sound like a good idea. Sighing, the blonde said. I know, but in all honesty, where can we go? We would be fugitives anywhere. I could get us a home in the elementals. All it would take is one ninja from one of the ninja villages, one of us as form, and we would be hunted down for the rest of our lives. However, word that I've gotten from some of the belongings of my master is there are rumors of a land to the south. There's a path that if followed will take us northeast towards new lands. Sighing, Ryazetsu said to him. Yes, if it's true, but how would we know that right off the bat? It's not like you've went there and know for sure. Smirking, the blonde made a cross-hand seal, then put one hand on the boat they had come in and showed that it made a perfect copy of himself and the ship on the side of it. You were saying? Kento Numashiro whistled, then said. Damn, and he scouted it out too, so what's on the other side, Admiral? Smirking, the blonde said. Chief will do, and you won't believe what I've found. I mean, my guy managed to find a town and get a map, but still it's something else. You've gotta see it to believe it. He said, and the people nodding accepted his word. Just then a voice said, Naruto. And all the ninjas were on guard when the newcomers appeared, but now they were shocked, especially Ryazetsu, as an orange-haired kunoichi hugged him and several other ninja appeared, the leader of which was very amused. Sasama-chan, it's good to see you again. I'm glad you guys accepted my invitation. It was our pleasure to Naruto. We really need a new home now that the daimyo of the land of rice is in charge again. With Orochimaru seemingly gone, he has begun making plans to assert his dominance and his neighbors of similar size. The kunoichi said, with her enthusiasm showing well with some annoyance on the end. Hearing her reminded Naruto of the mission to Rice Country, or rather Otogakure, and made him wince as he thought about the Fuma's situation back then, and thinking of this he said. Which means he wants to use your clan to fight senseless wars of expansion. At this Hanzuki chimed in, the large leader of the Fuma clan, adding, yes, and it makes little sense for us to stay with Fuma Lane being embargoed. Thank you for sealing up our hometown, by the way. Naruto waved the man off. It's no problem, my other seal markings are activated, so we have 2 more clans coming with us, and some citizens from Wave my shadow clones have reverse summon type sealed them into copies of the scrolls. 1 have then dispersed, meaning I now have the other citizens to fill the ships. I think it's time we departed now. Everyone to the ships. I'll unseal our friends and then we can get going. Agreeing, the ninjas having followed Naruto, Ryazetsu, and Kento Numashiro, the man who beat Muku, and Anbu, and Jonin, saw little point in arguing the plan, and the work was quickly done, with the various peoples soon departing. Form Whirlpool, the island's trademark whirlpools dying out as they passed, then reappearing with a stronger ferocity afterwards as they passed by, heading out into the other first southeast for several dozen miles. Then catching a seemingly hidden passage in a natural fog bank, headed northeast to their destiny several long leagues away. You do know that as a native of Mist I'm used to cold harsh weather, but even for me a tsunade is a bit much. Numashiro said, and Naruto glared at the man as their ship exited the violent series of storms behind them, his many shadow clones letting out sighs of relief as all across the fleet they dispersed. Well, I didn't expect it either, Numashiro. He said, a bit annoyed, and seeing this Ryazetsu disarmed both men, saying, true, which is why as ninja we must expect these things and move on when we pass through them. Still very good thinking, making those shadow clones to steady the ship's ropes, masts, and to help row through the storm. Sighing, both men nodded once, and Naruto didn't comment on the compliment, instead looking ahead as he took a map out of his back pocket and then handed it to Ryazetsu. She sighed as she observed it, and the notations then spoke up again. Naruto, I think it would be best if we head here. This town doesn't seem like it has the most protection, but it has natural fields, but more importantly some iron mines. By it we may be able to trade protection for mineral resources and some of their excess food. Smiling wide, Naruto clapped Ryazetsu on the back and said, good, then let's make our way there full speed. Nodding, the people moved and made their way to their stations, the clusters of ships moving in spaced groups. The ships were armed with wooden bodies laden with light straits of iron protecting the outer parts from harm. The head of many were hard triangular beaks per Naruto's request, and though many wondered at the design, none had complained, and sailing towards their new home in the north few cared for the details. Coastline. The coastline was similar to many in the elementals and idly looked very identical to the lands a young genin once went to on his first mission. With even a boy of similar age by the shorelines gazing with shocked awe at the sign of the ships, however, a loud voice broke the boy out of his reverie. Why, Suke? What are you doing? Turning to face the older woman, the boy smiled widely while pointing out at the ships, which made the older woman pause with shock as the boy grinned, saying, look, ships, real ships, anti-masa. Sighing, the older woman with garb similar to Chio of Sand but for clearly a civilian said, Yi Suk, please don't scare me like that. Come, go back to the village now. Hearing this, the boy's face was one of shock and he opened his mouth to argue, but looking at his aunt relented at the look on her face. Okay, Auntie Masa, the boy said, leaving the air, making the woman sigh as she looked at the ship approaching and reached into her cloak, unsheathing a large tanning knife the size and look of a small jagged saber. She looked out at the ships, which had some small vessels heading out to land, and waited, preparing herself mentally. They definitely are militant, but what do they want? Are they coastal raiders, mercenaries, or something else? She wondered inwardly as the first of the small craft hit the shore and the subjects of all got out. Two of the people, one man and one woman with unusual startling eyes, came up to her. The blonde of the two smiled and bowed politely, much to her shock. The older woman did the same and the woman bowed too as the blonde spoke. Hello, we are travelers from the west. We have just come to these lands and gotten word of some villages this way. We would like to offer trade and possible inquire about possibly making a trade agreement between us. Hearing this, the lady sighed and said to the group, very well, follow me. I will take you to the village, but be warned, we have strong guards protecting the village. With that, she moved forward. The ninjas seemed unfazed by the blatant mistrust, though Naruto had to admit he felt both amused and shocked the old lady distrusted them so. Still making their way forward from the coast onto a paved path, they followed the old woman without complaint, though the small group of 12 kept their guards up, the other ninja following Ryazetsu and Naruto without complaint, while the rest stayed behind to guard the transport. Without much more delay, they ended up passing by 6 fields, 2 large ones and the rest of smaller sizes, as they came up to the large wooden gated built into 2 large iron beams. The guards were dressed in armor that covered their biceps, shoulders, stomach, and knees in buckler-based armor, the tiny circular shield serving to protect said points, while they wore helmets with horse tail-like brown tassels hanging like pony tails from the top of said helmets. The guards looked at the foreigners with suspicion and turned their heads to Masa, who merely said, the east wind breezes well on the light day. Nodding, the men opened the gate without a problem. The ninjas passed through the town, which seems to have been in full production. So it is a farming village through and through, huh? Asked Ryazetsu, and Naruto said to her question, yes, but I can smell a smelter, several of them not far from here, probably away from where she's taking us. He said in an equally low tone, and if the woman heard them she did not respond, as she led them to a medium 2-story building and without knocking went straight inside, leading them from the foyer inside. Then with expert ease the woman threw open the door and revealed an older man looking out of his window with a spyglass, giggling as he did, which clearly irked the woman and caused Ryazetsu to scowl as he muttered, yes, definitely, oh, big are the best, tiny can't compete. You ridiculous old horndog. Stop daydreaming, wake up. We've got visitors, traders from the west, and not the regular kind we're used to in the northeast. Hearing this, the man had jumped up in shock, turning to meet the group. His disinterest quickly passed to embarrassment, but the man had the strength not to blush as he coughed not his closed fist, then made his way over to a dais with a simple wooden desk on it. Sitting at it, he said, very well, my name is Jan K, town leader. In other words, I am the Lingdao, otherwise known as leader of this village. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I am the leader of the fleet which has come to the shores of the land's coast, and both I and my people would be honored if you would allow us to interact and trade with you. Perhaps we could discuss trading as well. Seeing this, the man looked at the group with critical eyes, and Naruto couldn't help but flash back to the leaf when he was a boy and he got to see the leaders of a nearby town talk to the Hokage. The Hokage had looked over the man with keen eyes and had near instantly frowned and declined the mission the man requested, citing his nervousness, telltale signs of lying, and sweating as signs he was being dishonest and setting them up. He's sizing us up and determining our integrity as well as truthful nature. This guy might leer like Jiraiya, but he's sharp like Hiruzen, no doubt. The older man nodded once, stopping his analysis and narrowing of his eyes, and sighed as he clapped his hands. Very well, what is it your people wish to offer us? Seeing he had the floor, Naruto said to the man as Ryazetsu gave him a look of reassurance as he felt her gaze, then looked back at the man and said, We can offer you further protection from as well as the extermination of the bandits currently plaguing you. Hearing this, the man leaned forward slightly and said, "What makes you think we have such a problem? There is no damage to the village." Hearing this, the ninjas behind them seemed nervous, though Ryazetsu kept her cool like Naruto, she thought. True, I didn't notice any damage to any of the structures, and the guards seemed fairly well trained and should be able to handle regular bandits. She thought, but was a bit shocked as she saw Naruto grinned like the cat that got a canary and simply said to the man, "Because you rotated one of your farther crop stock to the destroyed field to the western side of the village by the bare minimal forest growth by the tree lines. You wish to make it appear as if you haven't been attacked, probably got your best to try and make it seem like you hadn't been, but the fact is I saw the crop nearly around the backside of the village from the gate and it was missing a large chunk of the supplies currently by the tree line. Also, last time I checked, potatoes are connected to the roots in clusters of them, not growing separate off the roots and stems alone like some of the haphazard ones are lying in the dirt without any roots or stems that look like they were dropped in a hurry." Hearing this shocked the ninjas beside and behind him. The older woman seemed shocked while the older man had a look of concentration on his face for a bit before sighing and chuckling before saying, "You are surprisingly astute for someone so energetic. Good, very good, it will serve you well, and you are right, we did cover up the damage to our village's field." Hearing this, Ryazetsu asked, "Then why hide the fact that it did to maintain an image of strength when dealing with us?" she asked, and the man nodded. "Yes, the villages around these lands have purchased the services of mercenaries before, and a large number of them are wild cards. Some being satisfied with their payments, others seeing weakness and being unsatisfied with what they get take it out on their village. I had planned to see what you have to offer, form a position of strength, as my village can hardly stand a vicious blow right now." At this, the old woman said, "I wonder why Tanzo really is over calling in men to help him deal with another move of a conflict, one he no doubt started." Sighing, the other man said, "We agreed to send mutual aid when one of us is embroiled in someone else's war. Masa, I am a man of my word and I had to honor it. I stamped it with my personal seal," said the man in a strong tone, and Masa sighed, the woman clearly having expected this, and said, "I know that, it's just that I don't want him taking advantage of you and dragging you into this. You're like a brother to me, and every time the two of you talk it wears you down," she said simply, and the old man sighed, smiling at her as he said, "You aren't exactly an easy person to talk with either." Huffing, the woman said, "At least I dot give you gray hairs." Laughing, the man shook his head, then turned back to his guests and said, "I accept whatever help you can offer my village. In exchange we can discuss what we can do for you about those mining rights. Fair enough?" Nodding, the blonde said, "It will serve us well, thank you. So who are these bandits and which direction are they coming from?" Sighing, the older man took a deep breath and began to tell them of the Jun bandits and where they came from. As he finished telling what he knew, the man thought as the ninjas agreed, "I don't know why, but I know Jun is dead and some part of my soul feels pity for him. What are these people going to do to him?" He wondered as the party left the building and were led to the gate, where Masa pointed to them the direction of their targets. With Naruto and friends 20 minutes later. "Now that we're on the right path and found one of their bloody broken swords, I saw we break here for now," said the blonde, and the ninjas nodded and took various seats on the ground, taking out their rations as they did. Ryazetsu sighed and did the same, breaking her bread in half and offering Naruto a piece. "Here, I noticed you didn't bring any from the ship, so you can have some of mine." Chuckling as he rubbed the back of his head, Naruto said, "Thanks. I forgot to bring any. I had expected simple negotiations, but this is what we've got instead. Hunting bandits, a C-rank mission. Oh well, at least it can get us what we need, our foot in the door." Raising an eyebrow, she said, "But what if they slam the door on it after we take out the bandits?" Seeing the former Anbu's smirk, Naruto gave her one of his own and said, "Easy. The fact that we took out the bandits means we're an even worse problem in our minds if we succeed to them." Though I have no intention of making them pay me, this mission with or without pay will give us a good idea of what we face out here just after landing, much less the larger threats on this continent. Nodding at his words, she still couldn't believe this continent was slightly larger than her old home continent, and she just imagined what it would have been like to see it all, not just the limited areas on the town map noted and illustrated. It was just the training she had from the Grass Anbu department and her own curiosity that got her. So everyone, I think it is time I tell you all something important, something that now I can tell you without fear of the hidden villages getting word. Would anyone like to listen? The choice to stay with us can be made in a boat given to you to head back west if you wish. However, I wish to tell you now of all my heritage before we move on, as this group has a majority of stone ninja to the mist, and as I wish for you to hear me now as honestly as possible without tensions flaring and mass fights breaking out on the ship. Hearing this, one of the men, a tanned man with a bare and a medium frame, asked him, "Oh yeah, Uzumaki, and what's that?" "Most of us don't give a damn, we just want to live, so if you're related to the Uzumaki clan head, we don't give a damn, we just want to live." Hearing this, Naruto sighed and said, "It's a lot more complicated than that, and if you wish to fight me afterwards, I will fight you fairly, all of you at once if you want, but I cannot go without telling you all of this. It would be deceptive, the same to you mist ninjas. However, Ryazetsu, I wish to tell you now so you know the full truth. You're my friend, and I wish to not keep such secrets from you if I can help it. All it does is bite people in the end." I understand, Naruto, but what possible secret could be this bad for all of us to be nervous or worried about? She asked, and Naruto sighed as he began his tale and giving his answer. "I was a student of Jiraiya for a time before I winded P at the blood prison, and it was terrible. The man was a deadbeat lech who would always borrow my money and leave me for hours, sometimes days alone, but what happened one thundering dark cloudy night made me almost hate the man for quite some time when I learned it before deciding on a better means of revenge," the blonde said simply as he unraveled his secret to the ninjas before him of what happened then on that day. He, that's right, ladies, it is I, the famed author of Ika Ika and Sanin of the Leaf, the gallant Jiraiya. And I'm here to play," yelled the man as he opened his wallet, revealing a large stack of ryo within. Instantly 3 women latched themselves to him, giggling and laughing within the bar as a blonde outside of a nearby window that was open shook his head, then dispersed into a puff of smoke. "Dark room. That lying sack of shit," said the blonde out loud to no one in particular. Thunder rang out distantly, but there was no rain, and it seemed as if it had responded to the blonde Uzumaki's outrage. "I need to go meet with one of my contacts, Naruto, an agent who it is critical for me to meet with. Naruto, it's important business, and I'll be meeting him in a graveyard." "Bah. He knows I hate creepy GG ghost related things. Damn it, I still need to practice those exercises to get rid of that fear. Just 3 more steps and I'm done with that. Still, that bastard left me hanging. I wonder how he'd feel if I went through his stuff the way he does mine," said the blonde angrily, as he had definitely been hungry and his wallet was now definitely empty when he filled it at the bank in the last city they had been to in Fire Country. And granted, they were still near the country in a safe house Jiraiya had on a return trip back before heading further south. The blonde knew the nearest bank was closed as it was sundown and was less than pleased that he was broke. So with that in mind, the blonde did some hand seals for one of the few jutsu he knew and clapped them together. Ninja art. Search pulse. It was jutsu apparently made by the 3rd Hokage that the old man taught him and made him promise to use to only search for things that were important because he kept losing his important school documents. And while Sarutobi was suspicious on how suspecting outside influences, he had taught the Uzumaki so that he could always find them when he needed to reapply for the academy every year. So with that in mind, he was shocked when the pulse went out and touched the walls, pulsing like blue rings from the 4 points, the wall's floor and ceiling, and each moving towards a spot on the far right wall where a gaudy-looking toad emblem with a face similar in boisterous acting to Jiraiya glowed before falling off. The little bronze toad hitting the floor with a dull clang as several seals on it sizzled out. Shrugging, the blonde went up to the safe and was shocked to find some scrolls with some complicating fuinjutsu in them. He pocketed them but was even more shocked to find a book that says journal copy IV the gallant Jiraiya. Snorting, the blonde opened tea up, glancing for sections that were important. However, he noticed a section of it glowing with the same color as the third Hokage's jutsu, blue, and seeing this side. Maybe it's a jutsu or something, but finally something good out of this mess. I mean, damn, how long can this guy go on listing women's measurements and talking about himself like a god or something? Wondered the blonde and read the small passage, unprepared for what awaited him as he read it. Today I was named godfather of Naruto by Minato Namazaki, my student, and Kushina Uzumaki, his fiancée. With both of them excited and deciding to name him after the character in my first book, the only one I did not write about porn but about a ninja named Naruto who would go on to do great things while protecting his precious ones and becoming a strong, well-respected ninja. I could hardly predict this coming. Heck, I couldn't, but I am deeply honored and swear I'll do my best. Minato's such a stickler for details, wanting to make it official by having the fire daimyo recognize it of all things. Oh boy, the less I am around the man the better, as I wish his younger brother had gotten the throne. Eldest or not, the man definitely has some screws loose. But Kushina's reaction was the funniest. She kept going on and on about how manly her son would be and how she hoped he got a nice girlfriend who loved him and made him a better man for himself. Of that last part, one can agree with her on. Well, it's time for me to go see sensei. Man, this book is filled up. I really need to get a new one by until the next volume. My pretty book. Calm, dead silence reigned both outside and around the small shack hidden by shrubbery before a burst of killing intent flooded the small clearing, making the animals by a nearby brook scatter. Jiraiya. Single quote. A screech of anger rang out as a brief flash of red covered the blonde and his eyes flickered red before he took several deep breaths and counted down. He could hear the growls of anger of his tenant but said nothing as he calmed down his ferocious rage, knowing that his beast chakra would get the man running and he definitely did not want to be caught with the man's safe open. Oh no, that would simply not do any good things for him. I need to be smart. I might not be like Shikamaru, but I'm no dumbass when it comes to revenge and planning. He thought as he made several shadow clones, then motioned his arm, saying, "Head back to the Leaf Village and use your copy of the stealth seal form Jiraiya's vault to get in undetected. Afterwards, break into the library, search everything you can, copy what's valuable, then head somewhere private and disperse. After sealing the contents of the scrolls into the two-way storage scroll, then disperse." Nodding, his clones disappeared into several puffs of smoke, changing into birds before flying out the window the original Naruto had now opened. 3 Horus later. Naruto stopped his training, both his practice of taijutsu and what his shadow clone self was doing, trying hard to duplicate Jiraiya's seals, and while not up to the level of detail as the man's, the blonde work was coming surprisingly easy to him in the retracing and channeling F chakra as well as writing of the numbers and drawing of the arrow patterns well. Ironically, the blonde found out why it came easy as Jiraiya added on his early seal notes to ask Uzumaki seal masters or a master Genjiro for help, and he realized his family was probably skilled in it. However, it also helped that he got a good idea from the opening statement to Jiraiya's first attempt. "Alright, this is my first attempt at fuinjutsu, and though it sucks, I've learned a lot about the art." The first thing, ironically, is that despite NTO being used as often, fuinjutsu is a lot like ninjutsu, only you write down the combination of words in a patterns with lines with arrowheads pointing to the next series in the chain, or tiny, barely if not unrecognizable ones guiding the seal's functions in Seal Master's work. Things that don't look like commas on the word's letters but are the most powerful kind of fuinjutsu because they're so damn intricate, usually using math, writing, and formulas of both to get the desired effect. Naruto had found the advice exceedingly helpful, however, his anger and scorn towards Jiraiya was something he suppressed, as while the man had not taught him about it, they had only spent about 2 years into their trip, and it was a possibility that he may have been saving that for the last year to introduce him to, or possibly at a later date. That was the kind of thoughts the blonde had when his shadow clones begun dispersing, and he got a good bit of knowledge that shocked him. There inside the library his clone had looked over, and through several documents he remembered a few things from Iruka's class about the last war the fourth Hokage fought in, so he decided to look there. He was astounded by all the confirmed kills he had, and also by the man's brilliance, as several people including his sensei Jiraiya and others praised his skill. However, the thing that shook him up was when he found an old bingo book under the war times section. It was one belonging to Stone, and it had a good number of ninjas from several nations. However, halfway through the book on the 56th page he found what he was looking for. His eyes widened at the face in the book. He dropped it in shock. He couldn't even finish speaking it, but in his mind he could. He looks just like me. Single quote. Thought the blonde, as sure enough, picking it up the entry read Minato Namazake home. Konohagakure. Age. 27. Rank. S rank. Designation flee on sight, do not engage if you see target, do not engage, try to sneak away, if he spots you, you're doomed. Known for using an instantaneous teleporting jutsu to destroy his foes with his natural speed. As he went over the entry he saw that it was rumored he married an Uzumaki, and then slowly but surely the pieces began to fit in place. Naruto might not be the brightest one around, but seeing a Hokage who looks like an older version of him in the stone bingo book. End flashback. The ninjas around the blonde were shocked, eyes widened, for the mist ninjas and Ryazetsu, while looks of realization and horror were plastered on those of the stone ninjas. Naruto took out a kunai and looked resigned to a fight, but the stone ninja form before shook it off, then grunted, damn, so you're his son. He killed my bastard of a cousin who was wrecking my family's home because my dad favored him and gave him our inheritance, thanks. This shocked the blonde, who awkwardly said, "You're welcome. What about the rest of you?" Looking at his fellow stone ninjas, the man grunted, then said, "Please, you're embarrassing yourselves. We may not be stone ninja, but damn, get a grip. This kid ain't his father. He's strong, but he's not him, so if you want to treat him like he's him, I'll kick your act like grown men, and for God's sake, if you've got a problem, don't make a fight in an unknown continent, alright?" The men nodded, but much to Naruto's shock he found out none of the men had a grudge, as half the people Minato killed had been angry about the ceasefire plans the Tsuchikage had begun considering before Minato slaughtered them, and said ninja had begun plotting an assault while the other ninjas had been killed in the line of duty, but ironically had no relatives among the men or the fleet he led. Wait, so that means the fourth died and you were left an orphan? Damn, I bet even some of the hardcore haters back in the village would be happy to hear that. Yeah, especially considering the fact that I am a Jinchuriki to boot," said the blonde while thinking. "Let's see what you think of that. Holy shit, he could slaughter the bandits on his own. Damn, he's got that kind of power. We definitely made the right choice. Well, no challenging this guy, that I like my body the way it is." Similar statements went throughout the men, but he was surprised by their blowing off on it, to which the man explained. The Tsuchikage doesn't let hatred cloud his ninjas' minds. He wants focused, tempered, rock-hard ninja. He only allows his ninja to loathe the governments of other villages they fight, not the ninja. As the ninjas only follow the wills and plans of the Kages, and the Hokage set up his men, not Minato. It also helps the fourth Hokage actually apologized for his actions in the war via a transmitted speech from the Hokage's tower when he was elected. Said the stone ninja, much to the blonde's further shock, but also something which further enhanced his suspicion of his old home village. Nodding, he was surprised when his friend hugged him and gave him a kiss on the cheek, saying, "Baka, if you told me, I would have known to put more faith in you at the prison. Damn, it made me so suspicious when you made the clones with the flame seal on you anyway." That's why I approached you and acted how I did while in the prison and trying to free Muku. Sighing, the blonde said. No problem, Mist Ninjas, you. We're fine, it's just wow, wait till Numashira-senpai hears about this. Said the man as the ninja group was soon all ready to go and the blonde directed his group forward to the bandits' camp. Well, this is most unexpected but nonetheless appreciated, Ganju. Said the man in the closed darkened room with brown paneling and painted rice paper doors. The man in front of him had the dress and garb of a farmer but nonetheless bore a distinct scar over his right eye like a crescent moon. I live to serve as best I can. Tanzo-sama, do you wish for me to take action against these foreigners? Asked the man, and Tanzo put his hand to his short triangular beard, pulling on it in short strokes before saying, no, this is a boon. If he can take care of the bandits, I can keep Koshiro village's guards longer. Form why fight against Kashigi, the old stubborn Mons soldiers stand hard against the passes we need to claim to expand our village's commerce. He will be removed by other agents while you continue your duties. Tell me of interest everything you can without involving yourself with the foreigners. Am I clear? Yes, Tanzo-sama, very, in my brother's medicine. The man said nothing as he slowly reached not his robe pockets and placed it on the desk with one singular slow movement. Every spoonful, I promised, now go. The farmer left the room and Tanzo sighed, feeling an itch behind his eyes patch he scratched, but yet it remained. With a frown he sat back and took a sip of tea from the small cup on his desk and narrowed his remaining living eyes as he thought. Something strong has changed the winds of conflict here. I have not felt such an itch since the Lord Kento nearly united this side of the continent's eastern parts together. What is going on here? He wondered to himself as his mind briefly wondered if it was the foreigners. He scoffed before turning back to the report his spy had left him and began to go through it himself in the dim candle-lit room. The setting outside was fortified town with iron walls and guards posted everywhere. Several men and women being tended to or treating those hurt in the struggle in a military village away from Koshiro village. Koshiro village, current time. Blinking. Only give him blinking, Jan K. Don't show him how surprised you are. Thought the older man as he saw the head 7 of them on the table and could barely believe it himself. Sorry about getting the extra ones. If you don't have enough to offer, but they crossed our path by accident, and when we saw the people they had in cages, well, I just couldn't help but want to kick the crap out of them. Masa said, hearing this. Really, this is kicking the crap out of them? Damn, where were you 5 months ago? Shit, who cares? Well, Jan K, I think we definitely should pay up now and get some long-term agreements in place. Said the older woman, looking at her friend while Naruto said as Ryazetsu blushed. He said something I didn't like about my friend Ryazetsu, so I tried to get him to change his opinions a nicer way, but when he laughed and called me all sorts of things out of my name, well, that was the last straw. Suppressing the need to gulp nervously and showing his strength of will, Janmei smiled calmly, then said, very good. These men prowled more on our neighboring village to the west than us, but it is better their leaders, and no doubt many of them are gone. We can begin discussing the mining rights to the iron deposits around here immediately. Come sit. Said the man, snapping his fingers, and the new addition of 4 guards moved, the youngest of them getting 2 chairs for Ryazetsu and Naruto to sit down on. Clearing her voice much to the Mont's inner shock, Ryazetsu took charge. Very well then, our people require at least 7 pounds of iron ore from a week's worth of mining, which means we require, from the estimates of our experts, at the very least 2 large mines and 3 small, though 2 medium would well cover it in exchange for training forms for your guards. Hearing this, Janmei took out a smoke pipe and lit it, an action Naruto noted was much akin to that of the 3rd Hokage, a man who Naruto both loved but also faulted in several ways. The man was good grandfather and a fair Hokage to his people overall, but when it came to major political decisions that required a firm, strong hand as he got older, he had faltered as his enemies gathered their strength politically and he managed militarily against foes wanting some measure of gain against his village. Still, he's buying time. Which way will you think, old man? This deal is as far as our experts say while I ask them as fair as we can get, so unless you want something else, why stall? Jan-K-sama, the report from our guards working with Tanzo has come in, said a guard just entering the room with some papers. Thank you Yin-ko, excuse me Ryazetsu-san, Naruto-san, while I look over this a moment, Ryazetsu said as Naruto nodded. Take the time you need, Jan-mei dono. Nodding, the man sighed as he took the pipe and smoked as he read the 3-page report. He sighed as he got to the last page, then looked up, smiled at them and said, "You two drive a fair bargain. I will take the training for the 2 medium mines. We only take the iron needed for the village from the bountiful deposits, so as long as your people do not go to any of the other natural deposits to mine without negotiating first, we should have no problems." Smiling, the 2 ninja nodded, Ryazetsu thinking, that seems far too convenient. He must have had someone checking our people's intentions and possible blending in and hearing our intentions. She thought as it wouldn't be impossible for someone to slip in amongst the people that had visited the docks and talked to the wave citizens and some of the ninja gathering intelligence. The final agreements were pounded out by all there, and Janmei sighed as he thought to himself, a spy on them already. Tanzo, you sure work fast, don't you? How long has that one been in my village, and for what purpose were they originally here for? The old man wondered, as the message hidden in the report was of an old tale the two had played games to in their youth, telling him to take whatever deal that was good for him in some way for him. The old man knew his former rival well, the two having grown up together, and as he finalized an agreement and stamped it with his seal with the 2 youths in front of him, he idly wondered just what sort of actions Tanzo might take and if he would think these strangers allies or a threat. 1 week later, Tea Country. Within the confines of the Wasabi clan's house, Lord Jirochu Wasabi laughter filled the household once again with much enthusiasm, many of his family members being those with brownish-gray hair paid little mind to their lord, being happy that he was still so filled with vigor. However, Idate stopped as he passed by his lord's personal den and knocked, making the man pause and look to the doorway, where he smiled. "Ah, Idate. There you are, my boy. How are you this day?" Idate Wasabi, formerly Morino, smiled at his clan's head and adoptive father and said, "Very well, my lord, though I am curious what has you extra happy this day?" Allowing himself a smirk, something he rarely did which shocked Idate, he said, "Why don't you read it and see, my son?" The older man said, and his son took the scroll and read it before saying, "Son of a bitch, his own country," yelled Idate as Jirochu smirked, then said, "Yes, he intends to actually build it using the ships he had built here on custom order in the nearby caves for special orders. Shit, he definitely must have been pocketing some sweet change for that. How much Ryo did it cost?" Holding up a hand, Idate groaned, knowing what was coming. Idate, the Wasabi clan never reveals our clients' secrets. It is the butter to our bread, Idate, the sauce to our dango. Sighing, Idate replied, "I know, Dad, but wouldn't it be prudent for you to give me an estimate? If I'm to be the clan head, I'll need to know these things one day," Idate stated carefully, and the older man laughed, clapping his son on the back. "That's the way to do it, Idate. You used legitimate reasons as my heir to circumvent and use our traditions to your advantage. Good, I am glad not see that as clan head you know just how deep these things go. It shows that when dealing with outside forces you will not let them harm us with the seemingly open loopholes of our rules. I had planned to tell you regardless, my son, but first you must race Naruto before I can reveal such a secret. It is his condition." Groaning, the guy sighed. He knew one day his haughty attitude while working for his lord in the shrine races would come back to bite him. "All right, fine then, and when I beat him I'll hear it from his own lips. If not, you can tell me, Dad. So what sort of agreement did you two work out? That was only the first scroll telling you he made it there and set up trade with a local village." Clapping his hands, the man said to his son, "We have both agreed to trading for several spices, preservatives, and our land's main export, green tea leaves and powders, in exchange for ores to use within our ships, as well as several native clams and other seal phi that have been discovered to be very valuable in making jewelry, iron, pearls as well as different food spices from the surrounding area which has several abundant wild herbs and spices. Hearing that Idate whistled then said to his father. So he's giving us ninja to guard this stuff. Nodding Jirochu added. Yes, but not those wanted in the nearby countries. However, I have decided to get the Akagi clan to provide guards in order to have them see the trade for themselves, as several of the merchants wish to ply their trades elsewhere. Fire Country has, in their words, charged them outrageous taxes, while none of the other countries really have exports we like besides Wave Country, and they're going through a dry spell as fishing season is over. Said Jirochu, and Idate snapped his fingers and said. You're doing it so those old farts see that it's profitable and lend the merchants money for supplies to trade, aren't you? Laughing lightly, the head of the Wasabi family said. Yes, son, I am not just trained in finance but a bit of politics, my son, and this can serve as a great lesson to you. Some people are like picky children. You must unconsciously get them to try something to get them to see how good it could be for them. I agreed to pay off the debts for 3 of their major borrowers. In exchange, they provide guards for the transports. This way the Akagi clan can see that the transport-based trade is profitable, and I get some good favor with the daimyo, who might even decide to postpone the next shrine race if we do a good enough job. Shaking his head at his father's plan, he had to admit no one who thought they knew the man would see it coming. His father was good-natured at heart and even tried not to harm flies when they would annoy him, rather shooing them away carefully, but when the man wanted something he definitely knew how to move the pieces on the board to get it. Back in the north, Naruto's ninja fleet. Naruto sighed as he stamped the paper with an ink seal, one of the fresh ones created amongst his people, much to the celebration of those around him. The fires raged and the people laughed and danced happily as Nushira said to him. It would seem we've managed to form our nation without many problems, Namikaze-sama. Please, Uzumaki, for now I will not take on his name just yet. It will attract less attention, which is why in the West I think it will be more prudent for me to change my name or use an alias. The people among our fleet could call you K's, and you can keep your first name, that way you won't have any problems. I think Naruto Uzuka's would prove to be a better name for me to go under while I am here in the West as the new nation of Jing. Nodding, his people said nothing else about it. Many foe the people they had rescued from the bandits were mingling with mostly the Wave citizens. However, some did speak to the ninjas among the group, while Nushira made an excuse to go talk to a civilian girl from Wave. Many of the other ninjas were talking on their own. However, Naruto felt a hand grasp his shoulder and turned and was shocked to see it was Raizuetsu in civilian clothes. There's a place where we can eat, the 2 of us, Naruto. Would you like to go on a date with me? She asked, and the blonde was shocked even more so as she pecked him on the lips after closing his open mouth with the palm of her hand which held his chin. Her indigo purple eyes flared with mischief as she said. And who knows, maybe afterwards we'll have dessert. I still haven't thanked you for saving me, and with all that's happened recently I realize I want to enjoy more of life before I die, and you aren't just a good friend but someone I've come to like a lot more than I thought I would. Smiling, Naruto said with a sigh. Okay, Ryazetsu-chan, I wouldn't mind. It's just I sort of owe Sasama-chan a dance sometimes, so if she comes by please don't be mad. Ryazetsu was a bit shocked and suppressed her frustration. Calm thoughts, smile and say. That wouldn't be a problem. We should go. Feel they still have sake. I really haven't had some in quite some time, and I'd like to try what they have, and peppered steak is my favorite. Nodding, the blonde left unaware of the girl on the ship leaning against it with a smirk, who thought. At first I was annoyed she beat me to the punch, but Naruto is a man of his word. I'm glad I cornered him a few minutes ago. Still, you want him too, huh? Ryazetsu, it's a good thing my clan has ways to deal with this, and I've been taught to keep an open mind. Besides, Hanzuki says the Uzumaki clan's numbers are low. Maybe this will be just what they need. She thought as she left the area herself, wearing a simple orange kimono with a blue sash. She was definitely not sticking out, as others had swapped into some of their finest clothes to celebrate Jing's birth as a nation. It was only a matter of time, and when Naruto had suggested they hold a vote with him and several others suggesting a name after the vote to make themselves a country had passed. Now with the population size to form a very small state with their ships serving as homes, it was only a matter of time before they further organized and formed a true state. Idate-san, we should be within their waters soon enough. We're near the opening to the middle point out at the Jodan Sea and near the end of Kizan Pass. Sighing, the heir to the Wasabi clan said to the sailor, one of the men under his command from his father, while several vessels were filled with merchants and some Akagi clan inspectors as well as several dozen guards. Good, that means I can go see this knucklehead and prove who's the fastest between us. I wonder if he's still wearing the kill me orange. He asked himself, and the retainer sighed, thinking to himself. Master Idate is as eager to prove himself as ever, still it couldn't hurt for him to see his friend right. The older man asked himself while shaking his head as he found he really didn't want to know the answer. Idate on the other hand looked eagerly to seeing his friend again and getting what he had wanted when his friend opened his loud genin mouth, a race both to their fullest. Konohagakure Main Road. Within the confines of the village hidden among the leaves was a seemingly warm village open to trade, negotiation, friendship, and seemingly the most open of the hidden villages. However, to a trained eye, the fact that it was a military force could not be overlooked. Ninja ran along the rooftops, Anbu went on patrols, and more importantly, Jonin trained the future soldiers of the village as was usual. However, to far better eyes, the village seemed to be far different than usual. Fights broke out, people glared at each other, and loud voices could be heard frequently within. These were the sights Lee and his team were becoming used to, and to be honest, seeing both of his teammates' glares made even his flames of youth want to recede. However, he kept up his usual energy and enthusiasm. Yosh. Neji Tenten, I believe it would help strengthen our spirits if we go on a 20-kilometer run 900 times across the village. Hearing this, both teammates stopped glaring at each other and winced inwardly. Lee applauded himself, for he had managed to get their attention off of hating each other. Tenten, seeing the disaster waiting to happen if their sensei heard Lee's words, said to him, "Oh no, we're fine. Just a bit of a disagreement about the time I was supposed to be picked yesterday," she said, glaring slightly at the male Hyuga, who sighed and said to her, "I'm sorry, but Hinata-sama as well as Hiyashi-sama both required things of me that evening. Hiyashi to help him go through some of my father's things, and Hinata-sama required some counseling. She's taken the news of Naruto's disappearance poorly and the news that the Akatsuki is presumably gone to the shadows, however, with word of Kumogakure blaming us for the disappearance of his brother since he cannot get to the Akatsuki members and thinks we hired them. They tried to capture Naruto. I mean, I didn't know he was holding something they wanted. I mean, him being a Jinchuriki, it's a dangerous situation anyway you cut it," said the girl, sighing and shuddering as she remembered the description Sakura gave of the blonde when she found her shaken up the day they returned from the mission. And the weapon-wielding girl couldn't help but flash back to the image of her uncle's body, the man having fought against and being killed by the nine-tailed fox. She had snuck in the room where his body was held at the funeral home to get one last look at him before the body was prepared. Needless to say, the girl had a healthy dose of fear of the blonde, and with the way ninja were, wondered how dangerous the blonde was and if he was hiding his true self just waiting to strike. Lee on the other hand sighed and said, "Ten, we do not know the whole situation, please do not judge. Don't judge. Lee, he's holding the beast that wiped out over 30% of the reserve forces 20 years ago and 40% of all the active ninja available. That's 450 ninja of all ranks, and you want me to not be scared? How?" She yelled at him, and the taijutsu user and yeller of youthful phrases winced, but their teammate said calmly, "Tenten, you are not helping the situation. Look." Tenten looked at where Neji motioned around them and could see many of the villagers were nodding and agreeing to her statements, muttering it was good the blonde was gone and how many hoped he would never come back. Hearing this, Tenten groaned, "Damn it, I'm scared, all right. It's nothing personal, but I think it's better he's gone. I'm not the only one. What about Choji? His brother died fighting the tailed beast. He was only a chunin. Urino saw Sakura that day and ever since has sworn off the blonde. She says when she gets on the council she'll get a motion passed to keep him out. Said Tenten, and Neji groaned while Lee frowned. Be that as it may, even if most of the rookies have a problem, some of us see him for who he is, not what he could be. In regards to what ifs, Tenten Naruto has been nothing more than a kind, stubborn, knucklehead of a person whose only goal is to win the respect of the village and prove his worth as a ninja. He saved the village from Gaara. I saw what he became when he fused with his beast Tenten. It was not pretty. Not only that, but there's the fact that he's gotten many good things for this village that have helped it prosper. And all of them are gone because of him, Neji. Said a new voice, and Neji sighed as he saw Sakura Haruno. Her voice sounded a bit hollow but was filled with rage. Lee spoke before Neji, who looked even more annoyed, now spoke. Yash. Naruto's flames of youth burn brightly. He is not a monster. He is not the beast, the giant nine-tailed fox Sakura-chan. Hearing this, Sakura yelled. Nobody's a liar, a deceiver, a desserter. He left us behind, Lee. He abandoned the Leaf Village. Not only that, but now every country from spring to sand he's gotten us alliances in has left. Doesn't that seem suspicious to you? I mean, damn, it happened nearly all at once. Naruto wants payback on the village. Lee, he was never our friend. Ino, Tenten, Shino, Choji, agree with me. Shikamaru says it's too troublesome to speak either way on it. Think about that, it's just you, Lee, and Kiba who believe in him. Damn it, open your eyes. Sakura said, garnering a few cheers from the populace, mostly civilians, while most of the ninjas stayed neutral or went about their business. Sighing, Neji shook his head. Yes, we're among the only ones who know what is the right choice in this matter. It's a shame that after all Naruto's done for each of us, being our friend and never judging us based off of deadlocked preconceptions. But a ninja who not only gave his all to the village, it might not even be here if the fourth didn't seal the nine tails in him. And during the Chunin exams he saved you from Gaara, the current cage, but back then Mad Jinchuriki, who really was a monster. On top of that, he's gotten us several other nations to not only bolster our strength politically as allies but financially. Naruto is a ninja who does his best to help people. He doesn't have malevolent bone for anyone based off of how they treated them. He doesn't hold grudges. Sakura, in all the time we've known him, he never has. And given the fact that he promised to bring back your traitorous teammate who deserted the Leaf, I would think that you would feel some loyalty to him, but I guess not. Said the Hyuga, how dodged an incoming blow from the Pinkett, who yelled. How dare you? Neji deftly dodged and then looked at his green-wearing teammate and said. I think it's time we go, Lee. We seem to have overstayed our welcome. Yash, I think you're right, Neji-san. We should go deliver our reports to the missions desk immediately from yesterday's mission. With that, both young men left the area unaware of another person their age, making their way home as quickly as they could. Konohagakure clan quarter, Kurama compound. 5 minutes later. Opening the door and heading inside her clan's compound, Yakumo Kurama sighed as she noted the servant ushering her in and some of the few clan members she had sitting around talking amongst themselves in the medium living room. Hello everyone, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Yakumo-sama, said the men and women, sincerely greeting her, and she smiled at them before being led by the servant further. INL. Follow me, Yakumo-sama. Your uncle wishes me to bring you to him. He wishes for you to talk with him. Thank you, Saki, but I'm no longer a little girl anymore. Smiling, the older woman with her hair in a ponytail and some light wrinkles shook her head with a smile and said. I know that Unkai-sama wishes me to pick something up and run an errand for him. He should have the package ready for me to deliver now. Nodding, the Kurama clan heiress was led by her pseudo-mother and caretaker to her uncle's office. Through the modest compound, her clan had never been those for major frivolous things. Unlike the more prestigious, noble Clans of the Leaf like the Hyuga the Kurama clan had been a clan that had been fairly simple in their tastes and as a clan had not spent much more than costs for maintenance and necessities. Which was why they were not being hit as hard economically by what was beginning to happen in the hidden lead village. Coming up to the doorway, Yakumo and her pseudo-mother were welcomed in warmly by her uncle, a man who had shown and kept a new leaf, so to speak, in the way he interacted with his clan in a more open and warm way. "Ah, Saki Yakumo, it's very good to see you both come in. How has your day been, Yakumo sweetie?" "And Saki, thank you for coming so soon. I wish for you to deliver this package for me. It would be highly suspicious if one my kinsman, a ninja or kunoichi, did it, or a ninja courier, but you always get the packages delivered without issue. And I wish for you to take this package to Saiso." Hearing this, the maid seemed a bit shocked but smiled as she moved and took the package. "I see, so you're not going to leave him behind either, huh?" Sighing, the head of the Kurama looked a bit older. "No, it is nearly unforgivable that he was left on the outside like that, fighting to survive for 6 years on his own. He may never forgive us for the oversight for our mistake, but I wish for him to know his family will not abandon him a second time." Sighing, the woman says, "This could cause severe problems with the plan, you know," and Yakumo here is no doubt burning with questions. Said the woman, and the heiress to the clan blushed as she did. "I wonder how this ninja was and why her uncle seemed so uncomfortable. True, he may very well go to the Hokage or some other ninjas and tell them what I have planned. He may tell those loyal to the leaf what he have done. However, be that as it may, I wish to have faith in him to at the very least say and do nothing while we finish preparations." Sighing, the older woman nodded and said, "Tell her, Unkai," Saki said before departing, and Yakumo looked at her uncle expectantly, saying, "What does Saki mean, uncle? Tell me what?" Sighing, the older man did not seem like he wished to say. "I should tell her no matter what. I promised my brother if she asked I would say. Murakumo, if only you were here, you were always the more skilled orator." He thought before deciding the direct path was best. "Yakumo, you have a cousin that is outside of our clan, my brother's son Busaruguru Kurama. He was a man who frequently took trips out of the village. He was an adventurer and a special jonin. He was my elder brother and he would often tease me, saying I was too uptight as the second eldest. However unlikely it may seem, he found someone, a young woman who he fell deeply in love with and loved him. She was a volatile spitfire eager to fight, and he was a calm, collected man with a bit of an attitude similar to the Nara clan's men. However, the Third Ninja World War saw many ninjas die, and the village trying to churn out as many combat-ready ninja as possible as massed assaults by the smaller ninja villages in alliances became a daily thing. However, it would be on a raid from Kagero village, Kusagakure, and Takigakure that your father, on his way back from river country where the kunoichi from the other village Tanagakure, the village of the land of rivers. He was escorting a noble from the land of rivers to negotiate a peace between Fire Country's daimyo and their nation. When he was attacked, they had garnered the information of his mission and over 30 ninja ambushed him. Nearly half were jonin, the rest were chunin ranked. He had managed to make a shadow clone and have it lead the noble to Fire Country successfully. Yakumo was shocked and had a very good idea what happened to her uncle and said, "But he didn't survive, did he?" "No, his charred corpse was found by a river where he had crawled with several blade weepos and wounds. He had over 2/3 of the attacking ninja killed, having used his genjutsu and skill with a kusarigama to kill them. However, what we didn't know was the kunoichi was pregnant and had passed on due to complications. Because of this, your cousin did not have citizenship. One of the other ninjas had caught his mother with the leaf ninja, and the boy was branded the son of a traitor before the treaty was signed, meaning he was the son of a traitor, and he was left to survive outside at a civilian village where he was raised as a civilian until the village was attacked by bandits. Our brother had left him a scroll, and though young and inexperienced, he had managed to, out of sheer desperation, use a genjutsu to escape and then make his way to the place the symbol on the scroll was of. Konohagakure. Asking rural farmers, he made his way to the village, and recognizing him, one of the Chunin guards was able to arrange for him to have a blood test done, and the hidden leaf was able to realize he was a relative of Busarigama but not his son, as the tests were not as advanced back then and could only define clan-based matches, not parentage. Due to this, the boy was given a stipend from Busarigama's account as well as some money from the Leaf Orphanage Fund. The young man, however, did not seek us out. He had by this time become jaded and believed he could do it all on his own. He wanted to prove he could be his own man before contacting us, much to my own shock when the 14-year-old sent me a letter detailing who he was and that he had made Chunin without our help, and follow his own path and ninja way without our intervention in his life. Hearing this shocked Yakumo deeply, however she couldn't help but have respect for her cousin for surviving through such an ordeal. I see. I am glad you told me this, uncle. I did as you asked me to, and I think I know of several ninjas that we could approach about our pilgrimage. Seeing this, the man raised an eyebrow and asked, who would they be? Sighing, Yakumo relayed the events she had seen happen with Neji Hyuga, Rock Lee, and the information about Kiba also being trustworthy from what it seemed in the older man's side. Out of all those young prospective skilled genin, only 3 are completely trustworthy. It's a shame Naruto risked his life for you while hardly knowing you, and only 3 of his friends are equally trustworthy. Oh Yakumo, by the way, I was wondering, would you want me to inquire about a betrothal contract between you and him? You uncle. Please, that's too much, said the chocolate-haired girl, blushing fiercely, which made the older man laugh and say, just like your mother. Oh, when your father asked her out, she was so flustered. Good, I know you have feelings for him, a crush or otherwise. I don't. No, but you should jump on the while you can. He's been seen in the company of a female friend, and I do not know how long you may have to try and get a place in his heart, even if you must share it. With the Uzumaki clan being scattered and nearly extinct, drastic measures may be needed to help it revive, said the man, with Yakumo adding on, the same could be said for our own. Numbers have always been an issue, but heading west, getting out of this village where so many people see us as a third-rate unknown clan, could be just what we need, especially given the fact that the Hokage has denied our requests to get out of the village to visit old relatives we have outside of the 2 branches to bolster our numbers. Hearing this, Unkai sighed. It was true in his opinion. It seemed that the Hokage was reluctantly building up her forces and being more militant and stringent with travel into and out of the village for any reason, even to visit relatives married to politicians or nobles out of love or arranged marriage amongst the ninja clans. An attitude he knew was no doubt making the other Kage even more nervous and on the lookout for any sign of a conflict, especially given the Raikage's threats and the Tsuchikage fanning the flames between him and the Leaf, citing the old war hawk Danzo as a main threat to both their villages. As a route, Anbu had been found at meeting between Cloud and Stone to discuss what they would be giving together to the fledgling ninja alliance. Needless to say, all points of agreement to such a thing were out of the window, as the route Anbu was found with high-powered explosive notes in the form of a vest on him. With both ninja villages having begun to build up their forces dramatically and move them closer, pushing them through the borders of nearby countries seemingly in groups and teams as was usual. However, Unkai had seen such build-up before during both ninja wars he lived through, and the Konohagakure Council was set to meet to discuss it. He was a friend of Inoichi Yamanaka, and when drunk the man, despite his mental training, could go off like a faucet on full blast, something he suspected the man's daughter had inherited. Sighing as he could see his niece was thinking as hard as I am, he said. The Elif village is going to get involved in a war, whether it's with the Akatsuki or another village doesn't matter. What does matter is us being prepared, and I do not wish to chance Oru clan's livelihood in this war. Which is why I have decided we will wait no longer than 2 weeks, then we will use the scroll Naruto has sent us through the land of T's Ride Ninja Postman, and then we will head off. Sighing, Yakumo said. 2 weeks to gather them all, and hopefully without anyone who will speak of it to the higher ups. This is definitely going to be some of the most tense times for the I-Haven. No doubt we will manage to survive and thrive from it," said the heiress to the clan in a tone that made Unkai practically glow with pride as he thought. "She sounds like a true clan head. I am so proud of you, my little Yakumo. I had worried about you and tried my hardest not to smother you. I know I appeared cold, but I was so scared of harming you with my words of actions and making things worse with your PWOWRS, but now I can let you know how proud I am." He thought as he got up and walked over his desk and hugged his niece, who was shocked but smiled and hugged back as he said, "I am so proud of you, my niece. You are like the daughter I never got to have with my fiancée before she perished all those years ago in the Second Ninja World War," said the man who felt so much closer to his niece, who he now viewed as a daughter, and he swore if Naruto or any other man ever made her sad, he would put them in a genjutsu the likes of which no one, not Kurenai Yuichi or Itachi Uchiha, had ever seen or crafted out of anger. Meanwhile, Naruto felt a chill run up his spine and swore he would be good to all his female friends no matter what, though why he did he had no idea why. Daimyo Koyuki Kazuhana was many things to her people: beautiful, fair, impartial, and a symbol to them of everything they wanted in a monarch, and the very thing that to them embodied the nation so well. Which was a good reason why the woman was so frustrated with her chief retainer. "Ayatsu, I can handle going to see my friend. I am even going to be traveling under an alias, so why is it I cannot go to see him in his own country to wish him well on founding a nation and leaving that treacherous village?" asked Koyuki Kazuhana, making her chief retainer the son of her late personal assistant and bodyguard Sandei Osama. Ayatsu Osama was a young man with broad shoulders with a bigger build than his father by at least 2 muscle classes. However, the man was not overly bulky and had the physique of a middle-class wrestler. He possessed slightly tanned skin in contrast to his father, but had his goatee, and wore robes in a samurai robe fashion and had a red belt sash over his light gray robes. He also had a katana attached to his hip and a wakizashi on the opposite side of his belt. He had light blonde hair, clearly from his mother, which was in a top-knot fashion of a samurai. Said retainer went to his knees holding his hands in a sign begging forgiveness as he said, "Please forgive me, Lady Kazuhana, but I have not finished gathering the ninja from Harugakure. However, the last of them required for your journey have been pulled from those spots on the borders where they are not needed. As you know, the main ninja villages are gearing for war, and the Akatsuki, the group who seem to have been hunting people like your friend Naruto, have disappeared once more." Koyuki sighed hearing this but nodded her acceptance, saying, "Good, I would like to leave by the end of the week at the least. I know the Spring Ninja wish to secure the country and make sure we are safe from the fighting, but this is important to me. Ayatsu, this is my friend, the man who gave me the strength to rise and be the leader the people of the land of snow and springs needs." Ayatsu nodded. He knew his daimyo had been inspired by the young man and could not help but smirk and say, "That, and you wish to give him another kiss from his bedside?" "No, milady." Hearing this, Koyuki blushed and said, Ayatsu. I do not believe. Damn it, Ayatsu, it's not like that. I mean, I would like it if he felt well of me like that, but you had heard he had a crush on his teammate that has passed, milady. One of my men there says she does not wish for him in any such way, and he seems to have cooled to such affections and sees her as a friend, especially given the fact that he seems close with a woman who he escaped with from the ninja prison. However, his clan form, what I heard, had some peculiar customs, especially when their numbers were low, and you may still be able to find a place in his heart." Hearing this, Koyuki blushed at the implications and coughed, changing to a more official tone. "If such a matter can bring our 2 nations closer, then so be it. From the messages they sent, they have many goods which can help our land prosper." Smiling, the man said nothing, as he could tell his daimyo was also thinking about what he had said, and Ayatsu was glad. "I have done much research on that boy. If he has changed for the better like my spies say, then he will prove to be a good match for Koyuki-sama. Competition aside, he thought while Koyuki thought. It has been some time and I can hardly wait to see my friend again and reconnect. He's one of the few to still treat me like myself despite my titles. She thought as despite finding out she was a daimyo he had not just respected her but treated her like she was still Yukie Fujika's, and for that she was very grateful. As the ruler looked at her retainer she sighed, thinking of another matter she wished to ask him. How does it go with the training of my new guards? Smiling, the man chuckled and said, well, the instructor we have hired, my teacher for my time in the land of Iron, Hayatsuki Kagame, has proven to be very effective. Nearly all the recruits are picking up well on the exercises, and we should have force to complement the technology and snow and spring jutsu of our ninjas and make up for their lack of numbers in comparison to the larger ninja villages. Hearing that her plan to protect her lands was well on its way, the daimyo sighed and said, good, I do not know which way the winds will blow, but the change seems favorable. The weather has just begun to defrost. We will be the land of spring once more, with my father's machine being powered on. Once the weather becomes warmer, it should once again turn us into the land of spring. Just 5 more seasons of this and we should be able to make his dream come true and become the land of spring permanently. She said with her retainer only nodding firmly. Once he had known Sosetsu Kazuhana and felt bad that the man had passed on as he did. He saw that his daughter was not just following her father's path but expanding in it, making spring country not just a land whose climate would bolster her people but one whereby strength of defenses as well as their warm and peaceful nature would keep the nation alive for several decades to come. Current time Jing. It was a gem in the making, thought the Akagi inspector Kung Lun as he saw the city flourishing in the distance, an island built from wood, stone and iron which seemed to be in the middle of expanding. And if he had to be honest with himself, he was shocked. The land further past it was a beach coast, and further past it seemingly of various forest lanes and mountains far inland. The man, however, shook of what he felt and looked at the fleet around him, seeing the various ships. Several medium vessels were armed with crossbow launchers. A standard defense of the Akagi clan guard junk ships, their half-triangle sails as well as thick wood, being accustomed to protect the ships and make bandits weary of the medium bolt launchers mounted on several sides of the ship by sailors. Nonetheless, the man found himself looking at the merchant vessels garnered around the Wasabi clan vessel, a lean fast ship designed to cut through the water like a blade, which had the air of the Wasabi clan himself. Idate Wasabi at the head of, looking ahead while occasionally speaking to his sailors and crewmen as they worked. Yes, Kung Lun would definitely see how he interacted with the leader of this new nation. However, Kung Lun could not help but wonder just what kind of man had made the seemingly flourishing state. Jing Harbor. Stop tapping the docks, Naruto, it's making us nervous. Naruto chuckled and scratched the back of his head while apologizing. Sorry Ryazetsu-chan, I'm nervous. I haven't seen Idate in a while. The guy really can get under my skin, but on top of that I have the inspectors from the Akagi clan, the same bankers who I tried to help collect their debt on Tsunade for coming here. This could either really help trade or hurt it. Smiling, the former grass kunoichi kissed Naruto on the cheek and held his hand. Don't worry about it, Naruto, we won't have any problems. Besides, we've got Mizura at the trade house prepping the people and making sure all his people, both the marines and merchant divers, are there. Naruto sighed as he thought of the former Mist Ninja who had become basically the representative of the former Mist Ninjas. He had made several good points and had helped basically to unite them and help integrate them well into society, and as a leader to them Naruto had placed him as the first member of his council as the leader maritime organization or minister of seas. With the former Mist native delving well into the role and establishing a marine corps for the navy as well as organizing those Mist natives who were both fishermen and commercial divers into trade organizations and organized forms. Needless to say, the man had earned Naruto's approval for these actions, and the praise thankfully did not go to the man's head. True, and Sasama should be getting back from Kanto village. At this Ryozetsu merely nodded, though part of her felt the slightest bit of annoyance as he mentioned her as the grass. Kunoichi could see the look in her eyes and knew she had a competitor, though she was a bit confused. The girl's uncle was very polite to her and mentioned he hoped the two would get along together, seemingly knowing of how both felt about the blonde. Which made her smile as she thought back to the events of the festival and how she felt waking up the next day. However, the former Anbu shook herself out of such musings as she saw the fleet in the distance become clearer and clearer. And soon the ships were docking at the new port. That was another thing she had to admit, that Naruto, when he used the shadow clone jutsu, was an amazing thing, and she was truly amazed by how fast the work went for the docks and other features of their new home with Naruto's shadow clones helping. But she put that out of her mind as the ships docked and the sailors of the vessels from their old home continent began to tie their vessels to the shoreline poles. One of the first vessels, the fastest, the Wasabi clan cutter, was already docked and its ramp was down, and much to Ryozetsu's shock, a young man ran up to her with the speed of a Chunin-ranked ninja before stopping with a short jump in front of Naruto as he said, "So think you're faster than me, Orange-chan?" Grunting, the blonde inwardly groaned. He had cut down on his orange wearing and limited to a black vest with orange patterned black triangles, two coming from the opening of his short sleeves and the bottom of the black lining of his vest. He wore a gray shirt and blue ninja pants. However, he wore no headband from his old village but wore a blue band with white circle painted on the middle. "I could saw the same for you, Bird-kun." Grunting, the Wasabi clan heir laughed and clapped the blonde on his back, giving him a handshake and said, "Good, you haven't lost your gall over the years. I'm glad to see it. So who's this wife?" asked the Wasabi heir, looking at Ryozetsu with curious eyes, and her smirked, seeing her blush, but was shocked. Why, Naruto saying, "If she wishes to be, though I don't know if I'm ready for marriage yet. This is my girlfriend Ryozetsu." Ryozetsu, meet one of the few bastards that can yell me halfway under the table. I date Morino now, Wasabi, right? Hearing this, Morino turned. Wasabi nodded, grinning as she said, "Yeah, I'm the clan's heir now, Jirochu-sama. Dad, he said I'm the hope and future of the clan and that it's time for me to begin going further into my duties. That's why he asked me to accompany the Akagi clan inspectors." Nodding, the blonde turned and faced the incoming group of said inspectors that had now come up to them, and noted the leader of them, who seemed to be a thin man wearing a slightly expensive kimono. However, he had the eyes and body language of a man who was under no delusions and was all business. An experienced man who knew what he was doing was the impression the two ninja got from the man who bowed to them respectably. "Naruto-sama, Ryozetsu-san, it is good to see you. I hope that we can begin this inspection in good time. I wish to see what else this nation has to offer." "Kung Lun-san, it is good to meet you. We can begin immediately and head to the trading house where the merchants are waiting immediately." Nodding, the group made their way further into Jing's port and made their way to the trading house for the port's ware inspection. Land of Waves, current time, Wave Daimo's palace. "I see, and you're positive this will be good for the country?" asked the daimyo of Wave Country, its second daimyo in the last 5 years since the people of Wave rose up to depose not just Gato but the rule of the previous daimyo, who was being bribed by said man with an insane amount of money. But said money did him little good. When out of seemingly nowhere, the people of Wave then went to the capital at his palace and deposed him. At first demanding he meet them for an audience, but when he refused, not even his guards could stop the people from breaking through and capturing the man, who was promptly beat on by the more angrier members of the mob who lost family members to Gato and could not stand the fact that the daimyo had allowed it. Afterwards, needless to say, the previous Wave daimyo did not survive, and a relative of one of the old daimyos was requested via letter to the court of Land of Honey, where the last surviving member of said Wave daimyo put into power as the new daimyo, being a noble raised not spring country and having been taught about his great-great-grandfather through his mother's stories. The young man in his mid-20s took up the role with a vigor and fair hand. And the people of Wave Country loved him for it, as he was nothing like their previous daimyo, but was a man who made sure they had guards and samurai to protect them from outside threats such as the bandit gangs and pirates that tried to prey on said traders. Tazuna, hearing his lord's question, bowed, then said to him, "Yes, Naruto Uzumaki is the same one, the hero of Wave, who gave our people the spirit to fight and liberate our country of Wave from Gato. He didn't have to encourage us or help us past making sure I finished the bridge, but he did so much more than just that and helped to reignite our souls and break the oppression. Naruto is kind and noble young man. He's a bit brash and a hothead, but his heart's in the right place, and if he says this agreement will help us both flourish and gave his word, he meant it." Hearing this, the young man put his hand to his goatee, which was a dark shade of purple much like his hair. His silver pupil eyes seemed deep in contemplation for a minute before he smiled. "Very well, Tazuna-san, I will trust in this young hero who the people have their faith in, but I wish to meet with him myself, daimyo to daimyo, and see how he is with my own eyes." Hearing this, Tazuna was overjoyed and quickly nodded. "Why, yes, my lord Kanju, it shouldn't be a problem. I'm sure you could send word of you wanting to visit and you will be cleared quickly." Clapping his hands once, the Wave daimyo said, "Excellent, then I will send a courier immediately, as well as arrange for some merchants to be sent ahead to trade with my blessing. This will be a momentous change for our nation and something I hope will bring all great prosperity," the man said with a smile, and Tazuna nodded, bowing deeply for his lord before being let go. With his permission, the daimyo still had his smile as the man left, and kept it as he thought of what this might mean for him before sighing, his smile leaving as he thought, "However, I wish I did not have to leave Tana like this. I should go check on her, and I should inquire if one of the ninjas with this Naruto has medical training. Maybe one of them can help heal me sister," he thought as he got up and left the room, his guards who stood at the nearby walls following him, walking by his side as he did so. "Konohagakure, Dango ya." Sighing as he went into the building, Iruka Yumino went up to the counter where the chef, a grizzled man with a hard face and scar over his left eyes, looked at him, the monk's gray hair flaring slightly in frustration. Iruka steadied himself from the muscular chef and said, "I'm here to meet with the Seizu party." Grunting, the man pointed to the side at the end of the benches where a darkened section lit by candles was. "Back there, fourth booth on the right. Don't forget to close the door when you go in." Nodding, Iruka sighed as he made his way further into the restaurant, saying hi to several people he knew that were eating there. As he made his way through the back into the dark candle-lit portion, he went down and followed the barkeep's instructions and knocked and waited for his friend to say, "Come on in, we're waiting." Doing just that, Iruka looked at the assembled parties, a bit shocked to see a large number of chunin as well as 2 tokunetsu jonin. He heard a sigh and looked at his friend who had a scroll in front of him, Seizu Kamana, who looked up with a smirk. "Nice to see you could join us, Iruka-san. I was wondering if you'd make it with how late you were running." Bowing slightly, the older man had a slight blush of embarrassment as he said, "I'm sorry, but I had some difficulties. Some of the children's parents forgot today was a short day and I had to take each student home individually." Hearing this, Seizu shook his head as one of the other ninja Azumo sighed, saying, "People really are being overwhelmed with the way things are going now, aren't they?" Sighing, Seizu said nothing, but Anko Mitarashi snorted, saying, "What did you expect? I mean, we're getting forced into a war and it's all that damned cripple's fault. He just couldn't sit back and let the villages work together. No, he wants to go and try and cause us all trouble. I mean, what the was he thinking?" said the irate special jonin and her fellow special jonin Tessin Taigato, the tattooed jonin, saying, "He was thinking that if he struck them first he could probably devastate their villages at the same time and pin it on Akatsuki, no doubt, but his plan backfired," said the man simply, his arms crossed in annoyance at this. "And on top of that they're going to throw us to the wolves. Tell them what you know, Azumo-san." Sighing, the chunin-level ninja said, his partner seemingly annoyed as he adjusted his body on the long bench which was holding less than its maximum of 12 people. I heard the Hokage arguing with the ninja council over a new tactical plan. She was saying it was unethical, while the council headed by the same man who caused this Danzo and the ninja elders believe a preemptive strike is in order. One which involves sending huge numbers of Chunin led by Jonin and Special Jonin. Hearing this, Iruka said, "But that sounds like a routine military action. I mean, wait, something's wrong. What's the catch?" The school teacher's question had a profound effect, and the ninjas shifted uncomfortably. And seeing this, Tsubaki a Chunin and the traitor Mizuki's former lover said quickly in frustration, "They're sending them out against Jonin groups, each possessing at least 10 Jonin, and the main two battle groups we're targeting, each of them have Jinchuriki in them. Stones has the 4 tails while Cloud has the 8 tails." Hearing this, Iruka paled drastically as he realized what his friends were saying, and he said, must be joking. An assault like that will only cause the Leaf massive casualties. Why would they even contemplate something like this?" At hearing this, the ninjas in the know winced, while Anko, equally as frustrated, Tsubaki said, "That's because they plan on having several of us wear special flak jackets. These ones will be on the most powerful ninja. The ones most likely to get close, while everyone else will be wearing explosive tag vests. But the ones with the special non-explosive tag vests are going to have dead switch-rigged fuinjutsu, the kind designed to create seal that will capture the entire area for up to a half-mile in it and seal it all within the mass of bodies." Hearing this, Iruka was pale. It was cruel, it was cold and extremely calculated, and would prove to be a devastating loss in lives for the Chunin of the village. Why would they put a plan like this forward? Hearing this, Anko sighed, then said, "Because they've got several replacements lined up. They have twice the number of current Chunin out of last year's graduating batch. Remember, 47 new ninja ready to recoup their losses, and the group after that will have up to 70 ninja attending." Hearing this, Iruka turned red and yelled, "Rou insui nuating, they would just promote children that I would prompto chidlerin who errant, ready." Sighing, Tsubaki said, "Iruka-san, I know about you because of Mizuki, and I have to be honest, I know that you wouldn't. You're a good man, one who would no doubt fight such a decision, but not all the teachers would be willing to risk their jobs and would probably follow such orders." The woman said with a calm, level tone, but the words were cold, calculated, and no doubt what those pushing for the plan thought about it themselves. Which children the educators would be more likely to throw the dogs? Iruka felt sick to his stomach as he thought about what the woman said and quickly spoke. "Is there anything we can do? If the Hokage has lost the votes in a council meeting, then what can we do? Where can we go? We can't stay here. I can't in good conscience teach kids only for them to be promoted quickly and thrown into the line of battle or used as cannon fodder on the field of battle," said the man honestly. And at this, Seizu said, "We can go where my relatives are heading to. They invited me and anyone else who wants to come to the nation of Jing, a state whose placement is to the northeast away from the elemental nations and one where most ninja villages never have any contact." Hearing this, Iruka seemed shocked at what they said, and Anko voiced the group's thoughts. "So you called us here to talk to us about leaving the village behind, huh? And just how do we know we can trust you, having gone to the academy aside? We don't exactly know each other all that well," said the snake mistress, to which the gray-haired ninja sighed, saying, "Yeah, but you're one of the Leaf's top interrogators. You should know right now if I'm lying or not, and considering the fact that I'm not wrapped up in snakes, I'd like to think you know I'm telling the truth." Sighing and cursing, the woman nodded, and then Tsubaki spoke with Tizai, quickly agreeing with her as she said, "We need to see if there is anyone else we can save. Iruka, inquire about the students' parents, and if possible, if they can be trusted, inform them. But if they try to blow the whistle, use genjutsu to make it appear that they were overworked and falling asleep, okay?" Sighing, Iruka looked at his fellow ninjas and said with a nod, "All right, I can tell none of us are comfortable with this and there will be second thoughts, but I want to say now I'm doing this for my students and because this village is not a place I can call home if they're willing to throw young lives away into the crucible of war." Just like Stone and Cloud, the Leaf may have assigned teams more difficult missions than Genin would be used to, but at least they were well trained and had Jonin senseis. This is just throwing them at a mountain with explosives tied to them in the hopes to open a path for the rest of the greatly diminished force to take down their foe with. Said Iruka, and Tessai added on. You're a good man, Iruka, you have been ever since we went to the academy, but this is some dangerous stuff. Be careful when you do such things, and I think I should say that goes double for everyone else here as well. One slip and we're gone. And with the Hokage losing her official powers bit by bit, the elders and Danzo are working to circumvent her, by bringing the clan heads on their sides due to fear and anxieties the previous ninja wars have instilled in them. But I think it goes further than that. For the clan heads and the elders to approve means they are changing the Leaf's very military doctrine to match that of our enemies and becoming ruthless. I think they're losing the very spirit our village was founded on. Hearing this, Anko said, Amen to that. I doubt the civilians and more gullible ninja will think any different about it. I mean, just look what happened when I came back from that long training trip with Orochimaru and found out I was on it with a shadow clone and the real Orochimaru had left days ago. Said the girl and her fellow former academy students Katetsu, Azumo, Iruka, Tensai and the nondescript female Chunin on the end winced as they thought on it and knew she was right, as all sorts of rumors had flown about her and were believed almost as a divine truth by the populace less intelligent people. Really reminds you of Naruto, doesn't it, Neji? Said Kiba in a whisper, his head covered by his hood and a black jacket, while Neji Hyuga next to him side form underneath his own scarf and jacket hood. Yes it is, but we are both at team training, we cannot be seen as being different. I am merely grateful Naruto taught us the shadow clone jutsu. Said the Hyuga, and Kiba groaned. Yeah, but it really was a bitch to learn. I mean, him tricking us, tying us up and then having his clone s throw blunt practice kunai at us, up until we got it with our fingers tied so we could only make the shadow clone seal. The dog user said with a snicker while Neji sighed, his hand briefly touching his forehead, which made Seizu look over at him and say, Hey kid, I got something that might help with that rash on your forehead here, catch, apply it when you get home and the thing should burn right off. Hearing this, Neji was shocked as he was tossed a bundle of pre-lubed medical salve band-aids and was about to reply to Seizu when he noticed several different forms of writing, which instantly made the young monk's eyes widen as he said, Thank you, I'll use it later on when I get home. Said the young man, and the ninja nodded and said nothing as Tsubaki said, We need to agree on a meeting place. I propose we leave at 2:35 a.m. within a week's time in groups no bigger than 4 from separate points around the village's rim away from the gates. Then we head to the land of tea after fleeing the land of fire and make our way to Jing. Any objections or suggestions? She asked, and no one had anything to say. With that, Seizu dismissed the meeting, the ninja slowly dispersing from the location, all the while most of the 12 ninja thought on what they would do and who they would bring into the know. In a situation more delicate than the younger ninja have been in before, yet no less serious, as they're fleeing from near certain death in the face of insurmountable odds. Their village knew they would die in, and for no cause other than to harm their foes and in no way save their village from the full scope of the threats around it. Root HQ. The headquarters of Root, or Danzo's domain, was a place few outsiders ever saw and even few would know long about while staying alive. It was a place of darkness, a deep dank complex made seemingly in the style of the village above, but with panels, walls and many scaffoldings that confused anyone who would try to break in and try to get out. A design purposefully put in place by the master of this domain and the one currently staring at his 2 former teammates who appeared escorted by some of his root ninja. Homura and Kaharu, what a surprise! To what do I owe the honor of a visit to my family estates? Asked the old ninja, his eye still as sharp as the day both of his ex-teammates remembered it when they first went out in the field together. Pushing up his glasses, Homura answered, first quelling Danzo's curiosity for now. We came to discuss the matter of the Jinchuriki, or to be more specific, the whereabouts of Naruto Uzumaki. Hearing this, the man's scowl deepened, and catching on it, Koharu said, "Oh, so you do not know where he is, do you, Danzo? That is disappointing. I had hoped you would have gotten to him by now." Showing barely any emotion, the leader of Root said to his former teammate, "It matters not, Koharu, the blonde can only hide for so long. My spy network is on the lookout, a person on the routes to every one of the places he's been on, mission of great importance. If he comes anywhere near them through those roads, he would be spotted and reported to me," said the man simply, and both his colleagues nodded. However, Homura said, "Do not use the emotional intensive training, Danzo. I wish to speak with him in regards to certain matters relating to his heritage." Hearing this, the war hawk raised an eyebrow. "And what would said heritage be?" Sighing, the man said, "From his father's side he was a Jonin. You know, the man was creative for someone of his strength level, and though he was not the most well known in the ninja world at the time, his son may be able to access the contents of the vault he has at the bank, one protected by voluntary blood-based sealing jutsu." Hearing this, Danzo nodded, though Koharu seemed unnerved. Such high-level fuinjutsu. Who was his father? Akari Tendo, a high B near low rank, a ninja of the leaf. You can look him up in the archives yourself. He was someone who occasionally spared and fought with the 4th Hokage on ninja missions, so it's not surprising he picked some skill in sealing jutsu. Single quote. With that piece said, the man heard his fellow ninja advisor say, "If he is such a man's son, then if he were to retrieve the vault contents, it could help our efforts against Stone and Cloud immensely, as their sealing jutsu skills in the art of fuinjutsu are lower than our own already. It may make our plan, aka Torapu, Red Trap, unnecessary for us to take out Stone and Cloud's Jinkuruki and level the playing field to prevent them from attacking the village." At this, Danzo took his cane and brought it down once and gripped it tightly. "Koharu, that plan is of the most crucial timetable, and while it would be nice if we could have access to Naruto Uzumaki, we do not. I know you are uncomfortable, but your own granddaughter will not be sent into the fray, Koharu. Not only that, but your grandson will not be sent in either, Homura. This you have my word on. However, I expect both of you to give me your complete cooperation in the implementing of my plan in exchange for this, and keeping your secrets involving the Jinchuriki's early life and the loss of some of Tsunade's executive powers a secret." Hearing this, both of the other ninjas scowled, and Koharu said, "And you have both, but I would have thought you would have approved rather than condemned our plan and its workings." Hearing this, the man nodded, saying, "Yes, if it was implemented better, but you did this when Jiraiya was in the village. Not only that, but just after Hiruzen died you slipped those clauses in. We may not have been as lucky then, and she was definitely suspicious of it then, but she was extremely suspicious the second time you've done it, and of all times right after her meeting with the fire daimyo, when you know she would ordinarily get drunk. Slipping the papers in with benign documents or within some long civilian document would have been a much more efficient way to acquire her stamp seal rather than having an Anbu steal it and approve the clauses to strip her of some of her powers before sending it off under genjutsu to the fire daimyo, as Hiruzen's dying request suddenly found," said the man, thinking back to when his spy had reported the chakra signatures of his teammates on the paper, and the man cursed, being grateful that the slow recruitment of the new Guardian 12 meant that the daimyo had no ninja that could see into the fake letter and reveal it to the man. However, seeing the hawk of a teammate of his paused in his thoughts, Homura took the spot to speak. "We did what we thought was best. Tsunade's policies have begun to bleed the village dry, and her plan to send our Jinchuriki to the blood prison has backfired spectacularly. He's had enough for whatever reason and has ran and gone to the winds, and now that we are nearing a war when we need him most, he's gone. Danzo, this is why we took what powers we could from Tsunade. She clearly was not ready to handle the situation, and the way she ignores our advice is especially horrendous. Or have you forgotten the trouble with those bandits who killed so many of our ninja forces and nearly unleashed a pseudo Jinchuriki on us?" asked Homura, and the war hawk sighed, trying to rein in the headache he was getting from dealing with his former teammates. But he had to admit it was a lost opportunity to get a hold of a powerful weapon. In his opinion, the Leaf Village should have taken the boy when they had the chance and trained him until he was the Jinchuriki they wanted, as he was clearly stronger than their own when they fought. Be that as it may, my sources tell me that Kumogakure as well as Iwagakure have sped up their advance. Hearing this, both of the other ninja elders were shocked. What? When? Why? Sighing, the ninja elder and oldest member of the trio said to them. Because it would seem the Akatsuki have once again disappeared, one of them critically injured and another nearly decapitated while missing an arm. They were fought by both the 8 and 2-tailed Jinchuriki, while the other member was brutally injured by both of Stone's Jinchuriki. Neither groups had expected it to happen. And it would appear the news I had received of them capturing and sealing the 5 tails was false. They captured a clone with a hefty amount of the 5 tails chakra. Hearing this shocked the counselors, however, much to Danzo's annoyance, his fellow counselors showed fear at the news. He sighed and said, the Raikage and Tsuchikage worked together. Each set of Jinchuriki had at least 30 jonin, meaning somehow one of them gained information on the Akatsuki's plan. Hearing this shocked the counselors further, with Kaharu saying tensely, it only shows why your plan is truly needed. I might not like it, but the need for it, which is even greater than before, especially if we can force both villages into a ceasefire with such a plan. Hearing this, Danzo watched as Homura pushed his glasses, a habit he knew from years of experience. While on a mission with the man meant he had made a final decision on the matter. Said ninja elder spoke to his friend in a business tone, immediately finalizing the open talks. I agree with you, Operation Red Trap must be put forward, but I would like to request some of your unmarked Anbu be a part of it. Hearing this, Danzo raised an eyebrow at that and said, very well Homura, I will acquiesce to your desires on that note and have some Anbu prepared on the sidelines.